Welcome back, troops. Let's tab 59. You know, it's an old saying. I think it was George Bernard Shaw that said it. Check me out. I think it was him, anyway. And he said that those that can do and those that can't teach. Now, I wouldn't advise you say that, repeat that quote in front of anyone that teaches. And it's a saying that I don't believe in. Certainly not in the British Army anyway. So I want to talk about instructors, British Army instructors. Can't talk too much about the Royal Navy or the Royal Air Force, but I'm pretty sure that they're the same. I believe in the British forces we've got a really good standard of instructors. Now, in my time, I was an instructor in many things in different postings over the years. I've been a recruit instructor teaching young recruits when I was a corporal, and again when I was a sergeant. And I went to a specialist training wing school as a colour sergeant and was teaching different subjects there. So I've had fairly good experience of being an instructor during my time in the Army. And I've done loads of various courses. And I want to talk a bit about being an instructor in the British Army. Now, I can only really speak for the infantry because there's a lot of technical trades in the British Army where there's different methods and different techniques of instructing to a degree. It has been standardised over the years. But the infantry, when you get to you're a senior private and you get selected to go on your potential junior NCO's course, so a course, it's a 6-week course, to qualify you to look for promotion to Lance Corporal. During that potential junior NCO's course, that's where you're going to have to get out in front of people and deliver some form of instruction. You may not have any exceptional knowledge of a particular subject, but basic military skills. They're going to want you to get up and stand up and talk in front of troops. And indeed, maybe even take those troops for basic drill, marching them around the camp when you're on your course. So you've got to have a bit of confidence, and that's what the course is about. It's that early stage in your career where you're going to become a junior NCO, a Lance Corporal, and you need to have that confidence to stand up and deliver coherent lessons to troops. So you nurture it early on. It used to be called MOI, Method of Instruction. So inside that potential junior NCO's course, you'd have part of that course would be talking about methods of instruction, how you can deliver information to recruits on a course. Later on, MOI, Method of Instruction, changed. I think it was in the early 90s. The British Army changed the format of that into something called BITS, Basic Instructional Techniques. And that was predominantly for the Army. And then, I think it was the early 2000s, it sort of went tri-service. So Royal Navy, Army and Royal Air Force. And it was called DITS, Defence Instructional Techniques. And they added some elements onto that. I never did the DITS conversion, not properly. I did BITS. But anyway. So, we had on basic instructional techniques, and method of instructional techniques, there was lots of tools given to the instructor, or potential instructor, so he could deliver, or she could deliver those lessons, those bits of information to troops. Things like question technique, how to write a lesson plan, and confirmation of delivering a lesson, all things like that gave you confidence. But what gave you confidence was, in the first place, was having knowledge of the subject that you were delivering. So you had to have that first of all, you had to know the subject. And then of course they gave you, like I say, the tools of how to deliver that. And that was what was important. Now, if certain subjects in the British Army and the British forces, you can't actually have a lesson plan for. Most courses you do, most subjects you do, you have a lesson plan that either you've produced or has been produced for you, and you've rehearsed that lesson plan. And let's say you stood in the classroom with a lectern in front of you, and you've got that lesson plan you can glance down to and quote bits and pieces from. You don't want to be stood there with your head in a book, reading from the book, delivering this information to the troops. You want to be able to stand there with a bit of confidence. You've rehearsed it, you know the subject, you just got to learn how to deliver it. And your notes are there, your lesson plan's there, so you can stick to that plan and hit your 20 minutes or 40-minute lesson, whatever it is you're delivering. But there's a couple of subjects where you can't do that. For instance, if you're taking a drill lesson, you don't have to produce the lesson plan. As a drill instructor, you don't have to sit down the night before or 2 days before and write out how you're going to deliver some drill lessons to troops. It's all done for you in a drill pamphlet. The Army, run by the Guards Household Division, they write the pamphlet for drill. And everybody that takes drill takes the lesson plans from that pamphlet and delivers it. But of course you can't stand out on the parade square with the drill manual in your hand. So all you have to do is you've got to learn that lesson. You've got to learn that drill lesson off by heart and stand in front of the troops with confidence, with no notes, and deliver drill. Because it's a practical subject, isn't it? You're not in a classroom now. You're stood out on the parade square probably, or in a drill shed, depending on the weather, delivering drill. So in that particular example, drill, you can't use the lesson plan. But also in skill at arms training, weapons training. So if you're delivering a lesson on a particular weapon system, let's say it's the current rifle, then again, you can't stand there with the pamphlet or sit in the classroom with the pamphlet and read from that pamphlet. You can have the pamphlet there when you're delivering the skill at arms lesson. In fact, you should have it there, and it should be open at that page, just as a crutch. Maybe you have to refer to something, but you shouldn't be there reading it word for word from the pamphlet. So that's quite difficult. And physical training. If you're an instructor, a PTI, physical training instructor, again, you can't stand there and take the lesson holding a pamphlet. You could have notes in that. If you have to refer to timings and distances or any particular safety criteria, then you can have your book there, your pamphlet there. But again, these examples I've given you, drill, weapons and PT, you can't really use the same methods of instruction, bits or dits. Those sort of bits and dits, or dits as it is now, defence instructional techniques, they are for you to take basically nearly any other subject, apart from drill, apart from PT, apart from weapons. You can take nearly any other subject and relate it, put it into that DITS format and deliver it that way. That's what that was about. When you do your skill at arms course to become a skill at arms instructor, on your test, the day before your test, we were given anyway, each candidate on the course, each student on the course was given 2 rifle lessons to prepare to deliver the next day to the rest of the class in front of the instructor that's teaching you. You only delivered one of those lessons, but you didn't know which one. So you had to sit down with that pamphlet the night before. You'd be given 2 lessons, you didn't pick them yourself, rifle lesson 7, rifle lesson 3, whatever it was. So the night before you had to sit down and keep going through those 2 lessons, pretty much word for word. So that on the day when they went, right, Smith, out the front, you're taking rifle lesson 3. You had to be able to confidently stand up and go through that pamphlet without looking at it. Insert the cassette, as I used to say. Now in the British Army, we've got a specialist instructional corps for that. The Small Arms School Corps. And they are cap badged small arms service at Small Arms School Corps, and those guys and girls really know their stuff, and that's what they do. They can stand up in front of you and they can just read that pamphlet without having to see it. It's incredible. Pretty much the same with the drill. All the drill instructors, when you do your drill course, the guards of the soldiers that are taking sergeants, colour sergeants, they stand there and take that lesson word for word without even looking at the pamphlet. Incredible. So another good thing about British Army instructors, that we use a system called EDIP. Explanation, demonstration, imitation and practice. And I found that EDIP, whenever you're teaching anything, absolutely invaluable. Obviously, EDIP, explanation, demonstration, imitation, practice, really lends itself to skills lessons where it's a physical, hands-on lesson. Could be stripping a radio down, an army radio, could be anything to do with NBC, CBRN, something like that, where you want to physically get your troops, your students, to do something, a physical skill. Then using EDIP as a method to get that across is fantastic. The E, explanation, is explain what you're going to do. So you go through what I'm going to show you now what to do. Then you demonstrate it. You do a really slick demonstration where you'd assemble a bit of kit together without anything being said at quite a good speed, a nice slick speed, to impress them, to set the standard of what you want them to get to. Then you do a second demonstration in slow time with a commentary. So as you're putting the various components of something together, you'd be telling them, explaining what you're doing while you're physically doing it in slow time. So that's a demonstration, two of those, a slick one and a commentary one. And then you do an imitation, get them to imitate it. So you'd get the first piece of kit, hold it up, get them all to pick that bit of kit up, watch this way, and you'd fit that bit of kit. Then you turn around, now you do it. And then watching them, they would do it. And that's nice slow time, you can go around correcting them. Imitation, stage at a time till they put it all together. And then it comes to the practice, where you get them to practice it, you walk around the class, supervising them, putting them right, steer them here and there. EDIP, explanation, demonstration, imitation, practice, cracking bit of kit. Obviously in the British Army as well, or in the British Forces, in the British Army, we've got our own training establishments. I've already mentioned the Small Arms School Corps. They've got their own training establishment where you go to become a weapons instructor on a particular weapon system with these fantastic instructors. Same with the Guards. You've got the Guards drill wing. You go to them, that's run by them. Obviously the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, where we train our officers, our potential officers, commissioned officers. That's staffed by some cracking instructors. You've got the Defence Recruit Academy now, it used to be Army Training Regiments, School of Artillery, School of Infantry, School of Engineering. You've got all these training establishments with instructors that are absolutely top quality. Now, of course, we used to have in the British Army the Education Corps that would teach all sorts of subjects, languages, all sorts of things, education in the Army. That corps went when we formed the Adjutants General Corps, and the Education Corps became part of that and rebadged as Adjutants General Corps. It's known as ETS, Educational Training Services. And that's where you got your linguists. They used to be at Beaconsfield, I think, back in the day. I'm not sure where it is now. So instructional techniques, the quality of British Army instructors is fantastic. So that old saying by George Bernard Shaw of those that can do and those that can't teach, I don't believe in that. I don't hold to that at all. I think we've got some of the finest instructors right from recruit level upwards. You see it all the time, and the standard of instructor in the British Army, I think over my time has got better and better, and now I think it's at a really good level. Because before you just get posted as a corporal, maybe once you've got a few qualifications behind your belt, skill at arms, etc., you get posted to your depot to become an instructor, a recruit instructor. And that was about all you got. Now there's specialist courses before you go. So the standard of these instructors at recruit depots is very, very high in the British Army. And I'm sure it's the same in the Royal Navy and the Royal Air Force. I'd like to hear from anyone that tell me about that experience. So there's a little bit about instructors in the British Army, mainly, and what happens and what used to happen. If you're new to my channel, you haven't subscribed, please consider it. I'm not saying do it, I'm saying consider it. So next time, troops, and it won't be long, remember, stay safe and less tab.